Assassin's Creed Shadows is probably the most hyped I've been for a recent Ubisoft game, and we're going to play it on November 15. The reveal trailer is out, and we have a ton of brand new info from Ubisoft on how it plays, so here are over 25 details you'll probably want to know. Beginning with the playable characters. Now there's a bit of controversy going on right now. We had a first look at our two protagonists, Naoe and Yasuke. Yes, Ubisoft is making a return to the two playable heroes formula. They both provide vastly different playstyles, one being a shinobi while the other samurai, and Ubisoft has a pretty interesting reasoning behind this decision. Quote unquote, we can squeeze both of them into one character. Maybe somebody should have told them about my little old friend Jin Sakai over here to see what he has to say about that. But regardless, both of the heroes will feature unique skill trees and gear, and they will both share XP, collected loot, and resources. So let's talk about their individual skills. To that end, let's take a look at Naoe, our shinobi protagonist. She specializes in infiltration and stealth, proving to be a very nimble and agile ninja. She can be seen using an assortment of shinobi weapons, including but not limited to ninjato, which is the sword preferred by the ninja, which was traditionally worn on the back. Compared to the katana, ninjato is a straight blade with a sharp end, better suited for quick stabs and precise strikes. However, in the trailer, hers is slightly curved, so maybe an oversight or just a thing to make the whole scene look a lot cooler. We've also seen her using shuriken and throwable kunais, including multiple shuriken at the same time, so maybe explaining some kind of multi-enemy hit mechanic. Also kusarigama we can see in some of the concept arts depicting Naoe using this weapon. It's a sickle with a metal chain and an iron weight attached at the other end. So this is a great option to strike and slash at enemies' weak points, as well as disarming and immobilizing opponents with the weighted end. But we've also seen a return of the pivoted blades, which is really interesting because it also brings back the double assassination. She can both use the hidden blade in one hand and a dagger in the other to take down the targets at the same time. The game's wiki also mentions of a grapple hook that she can use, which can be attached to roof edges and other anchor points, and it seems to be entirely physics simulated, but of course we have to wait on gameplay for that. We're going to talk about stealth and parkour mechanics in a bit, because the engine has also been changed a ton. There's a new one with a ton of cool improvements. In the meantime, let's take a look at Yasuke. So Yasuke, on the other hand, is a heavily armored samurai who strikes enemies with brutal precision and power, somewhat reminiscent of Eivor from AC Valhalla. Some of his abilities include being able to block and parry his enemies, but also to break their armor. And breaking armor is actually a whole mechanic in and of itself in this game, so you can literally dismantle an enemy's protective gear piece by piece as you hit them. All of this, of course, makes Yasuke a good one versus all option. In terms of the weapons he can be seen using, he of course uses the katana. Traditionally, this is the weapon of choice of the samurai, so no surprise over here. He can also be seen using the kanabo. In the trailer especially, we can see this two-handed studded war club with lots of spikes. So this is insanely good to inflict severe blunt trauma. Japanese folklore used to say only those with inhuman strength could wield such weapons, given their sheer weight and power to break anything. And of course, Yasuke, being an absolutely tower of a person, can definitely do that. Now, this power to break stuff isn't just reserved to enemies' bones and armors, but also to doors, so possible implications to the exploration gameplay may be Yasuke having access via just breaking stuff through different buildings. Besides this, the game's wiki also mentions he can use the naginata. This is another popular Japanese polearm weapon, also used by the samurai class, by the way, of feudal Japan, foot soldiers and warrior monks likewise. He's not without ranged options either. Yasuke is said to have access to bows and other weapons, so likely some combination of longbows that can shoot with deadly force towards enemies. Now, in terms of other gameplay features, let's talk about the stealth system. In part because of the new engine change, there have been some pretty big, of course, upgrades over here as well. And this is also going to include a new global illumination system that creates dynamic lights and shadows, which will affect enemies' visions in different ways. So you can totally take advantage of that. Of course, both of the characters can still sneak around, but obviously Naoe is going to be much better at it. Besides this, she can also make use of noise to evade detection as enemies react to their changing environments in real time. We of course already discussed the grappling hook mechanic, but there's also another change, which is to the drone-like bird that we had before, and it seems that it's no longer going to function the same. Instead, it's not going to be available at all, and you will actually do your own reconnaissance, and once you're at the top of towers, you're going to be able to see those points of interest from that point, but you're not going to have them unlocked the same way on the map as it was before. It seems that Ubisoft actually wants to remove a lot of the icon clutter that we had on the screen, and thank God, because that was such a massive drawback for me personally. And there's also rumors of a pacifist playthrough possibility, so takedowns can actually be used to knock out enemies instead of, you know, sending them to the other side, which actually opens up some really interesting possibilities here, but I'm not sure it's going to affect the story much, but I guess we'll wait and see. So really interesting stuff over here. Of course, the setting is in feudal era Japan, so late Sengoku period, early 1580s, like 1579 to early 1580s. For all of you Ghost of Tsushima fans out there, that's around 300 years after the first Mongol invasion, so this game takes place 300 years after the events of Ghost of Tsushima. But yeah, the confirmed playable zones so far include the province of Iga, also known as the birthplace of the shinobi. We know that Naoe's roots closely tied to this region, and the birth of shinobi, as her father, in fact, is also a very important historical figure in all of this. Besides this, it seems that the map size is going to be around the same size as Assassin's Creed Origins was, and there's going to be a big focus on just the central region of Japan. This is also going to include at least 2 more regions called Arima and Omi. That sounds good enough for me, but I'm most excited about the new engine changes because it also features changing seasons, reactive environments, and unpredictable weathers. So one time you might be playing during spring and then summer, which sounds really awesome. Plus the environment itself, plus the vegetation, and even the particle effects will completely change from one season to another. Now, in terms of the story, it sounds interesting. It definitely stirred some discussion online, to say the least. Bold move on Ubisoft's part, by the way, but I can also see at least one point of view of why they decided to go with this route and not have 2 full-on Japanese protagonists, because at that point they would have just competed with Ghost of Tsushima, and let's be honest, that had a very good narrative and portrayed the Japanese culture in a very great way, in a very compelling way. I really love that game. So at that point, they would have just kind of competed point on point. I think that that was also part of the decision, as it was to split the shinobi and the samurai into 2 different personalities and characters. But as far as protagonists go, their conflict also seems to be a lot more nuanced than your typical Ubisoft game, at least at face value. It at least appears more interesting than some of their other entries before, even though some of the characters aren't fully agreeable by all the players out there. The Naoe and Yasuke dynamic seems really interesting. They kind of are starting on a path of conflict early on. Naoe being, of course, raised in the province of Iga, with her father being the leader of the shinobi at the time, and then Yasuke serving Oda Nobunaga, who ends up invading the region during the pacification of Iga. So it's kind of like this really interesting dynamic, because eventually they do have to end up collaborating for this bigger purpose, which is of course the hidden ones, and I kind of want to see how that evolves. Obviously, some creative freedom was taken over here, as is the case with all Assassin's Creed games, but as far as I know, there's no historical document that prove Yasuke has ever been granted the rank of actual samurai. He has been a sort of warrior slash sword bearer of Nobunaga, but I don't think that technically qualifies him as a samurai. But anyway, at this point, it's too late to even change anything. There's no point debating it. This is the story that Ubisoft is going with. This is their version that they're retelling, and this is the inspiration they have taken to real life and then have taken that to their own dimension. I think that's fair enough, and they can do whatever they want with their game, just like how consumers are, you know, entitled to do whatever they want with their money. Anyway, in terms of some of the other features that we get, there's also a cool new one which lets you build your own network of spies to be your own eyes and ears across locations to unveil new areas and hunt down the next target. So we've seen something like this in AC Mirage, where different NPCs would provide intel on various targets and locations, kind of creating this web of information that you find. Maybe hopefully this will be a lot more nuanced. We can also recruit several allies with highly specialized skills and abilities to help accomplish missions. Now, I'm not sure if this also includes the other protagonist, if you play with the other, because we can see Naoe handing a piece of paper to Yasuke at some point in the trailer. Maybe it's just for the sake of the trailer, but I would love to stumble upon the other character while in the open world. Plus, we have customizable hideouts, which sounds quite interesting, but I think it's mostly going to be just cosmetic, nothing function-wise, at least from what I'm able to tell. Before we finish off, there are a few more things we have to cover. First of all, Ubisoft recently, well, a few minutes ago, confirmed that you don't need an internet connection to play the game. That's just been miscommunication on their part. Also, as far as availability, the game launches on the PC as well as the current gen console, so I'm not sure why people speculated last gen. That's obviously not going to be the case, not with the engine improvements. In terms of the pre-order and other bonuses, the pre-order gets a day one pre-order bonus quest called Thrown to the Dogs, which is going to send you helping a loyal dog avenge his late master. Then Gold and Ultimate Edition, as well as Ubisoft Plus, plays 3 days early. Not sure why that's the case in a single player game. It means that the real release date of the game is, well, basically it's November 12 at this point, because this just confirms it. There's also a season pass for the Gold and Ultimate Editions. This is going to include 2 upcoming expansions and also some extra missions at launch. If you buy the Ultimate Pack, you also get the Sekiryu character and hideout pack, which includes armor sets for Naoe, Yasuke, and your mounts, plus various decorations for the hideouts. Additionally, 5 skill points and the red dragon photo filter. And of course, we also have like the payment scheme right here. Obviously, they try to funnel you into Ubisoft Plus. But yeah, I think you're going to be just fine with the $70 package. In the meantime, that's been pretty much it with the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.